In this video, I'm going to talk about cross-section annotation, or more specifically, placing cells on your cross-sections. Out on ProjectWise, underneath the Iowa DOT Standards Connect documentation docs, there will be a file in there called cross-section cells annotation, and in that Word document, it's just going to be a list of features that have cells associated with them to place on cross sections, whether that's to see them in the dynamic view or to see that in your cross section sheets. You can see it's mostly here right away and some traffic control. Let's go take a look at a couple of those. And it's pretty simple. So like here on this feature definition here, I have a right away. If I go open up that profile model, you can see that it's going to have a active profile. And what you want to do is, if you have an active terrain, you will make this ground be the active profile of the features that you create. So whether that's existing right-of-way or future right-of-way, some of the traffic control ones are going to be, there's some vehicles and some TBR. Those ones are placed just a little bit differently because the right-of-way ones typically I'm going to want to show on the existing ground, and TBR and let's say these vehicles I'm going to want to show on a corridor. So what we want to do is I'll just go ahead and grab a, let's see here, I'll grab vehicle. I'll come down here to traffic control. Let's go ahead and grab a vehicle rear. And I'll go to geometry, and I'm just going to draw some geometry on my corridor. Now I'm not drawing this on the roadway because I'm not in production, but we'll just go ahead and place it over here on the slopes. So what I would do here at this point, I would go to profile creation, and I would say quick profile from surface. I would pick that feature, so for that vehicle that I placed as the reference geometry. Now for the reference surface, I'm just going to go ahead and select the corridor, and I'll go ahead and reset to end that. If I look at that profile view for that feature, you can see here is the profile on the corridor. So here I'm going to select that element and make that be the active profile. Now if I want to see what's happening with all this, I can go ahead and open up here in the corridors ribbon. I'll select dynamic sections. I will select my corridor, and I'll pick a view to display that in. And so you can see right here in my dynamic sections, I'm getting the vehicles. Here's some TBR out here on the grass. That's not where you're going to want to place it. Here's some right-of-way cells. You can see I have temporary right-of-way, proposed right-of-way, and all this stuff is showing up in my dynamic sections. Here's the car out here on the back slope. Probably not a good spot for it, but this is just an example. One thing too about this file is you can see that I have some name boundaries, and we're going to go ahead and look at the drawing model next. Typically you're not going to want to place your sheets in your corridor file, but for this example, that's how I created it to make it a little bit easier to demonstrate. So here I'm just going to go ahead and open up a drawing model. You can say here's a drawing model, and there's no annotations. I have turned them off, but if I was to go to drawing production, drawing model annotation, annotate drawing model, I get this dialog here, and here you can see annotation group. I created these cross-section sheets with the 20 scale. Let's just go ahead and select that. I'm going to go ahead and annotate all the drawing models. I'll also accept through those prompts. You can see it takes just a little bit. And you can see here's the typical, I have my grid and my elevation and offsets here. But I don't have any of those cells, right? I don't have my right-of-way cells or those vehicles I placed. It is a separate annotation group. So what I need to do is go back to the annotate drawing model. And if I pick here, cross-section drawing, you can see I have a bunch of annotation groups. One of those is cross-section right-of-way markers. So if I was to select that and annotate my model, you can see now I get my cells on my cross-sections, or more specifically my drawing models. And I still don't have my vehicles, and again I would just come up here to drawing model annotation, And you can see I have one for temporary barrier rail and vehicle, so I need to run these all separately. Here's my cars. Here's my car on my back slope. And here's my barrier rail. You can see that kind of show up here. I also have one other one on the back slope, but this is just an example. And so that's just a little bit on how the annotation groups or annotating cross-section sheets works.